I'm Andrea Giles, and you're listening to the Heal From Infidelity podcast, episode number 167, One Choice at a Time. Hello, and welcome to the Heal From Infidelity podcast, where courageous women learn not only to heal from their spouse's betrayal, but to become the boldest, truest, most decisive, and confident versions of themselves ever. If you know there's more for you than the life you're currently living, but don't quite know how to get there, you are in the right place. Stick around to learn how to create a life that will knock your own socks off. Is it possible? It is, and I'm here to show you how. I'm your host, Andrea Giles. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hi, beautiful friends. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we're going to be talking about choices, the choices that we make, the choices that we don't make that have consequences. And we're going to break this down. Okay. First of all, before I dive in, I want to say I am going to be holding a workshop in January. I believe it's January 9th. It's all about the decision to stay or go. It's going to be a half-day workshop. I'm going to be doing some teaching, some coaching. I'm going to open up some time for Q&A for people who want to do a little bit of a deep dive into their situation. I invite you to come. You can register for it in the show notes. You can register for it in the link in Instagram. You can register there. And I hope to see you there. It's a low-cost workshop, one that I hope that many of you find a lot of value in. I know this is a big question for so many of you is, do I stay or do I go? That's why I decided to do it. So I hope to see many of you there. Many of you are already signed up for it, which is wonderful. I can't wait to see you. All right, so why this topic today? I'll tell you why. Today, I am kind of in a reflective space. I'm pretty tired. It is the day after Thanksgiving weekend. Everybody is gone. We had many guests. We had 9 of our 12 children home. Most of them were staying in our home. We have 3 grandchildren that were here, adult kids, little kids, and then to top it all off, my little girl just turned 3 2 days ago. And so in addition to the Thanksgiving festivities, it was also her birthday. So I threw her a birthday party and made her a cake and all the things. So it's been busy. I'm tired today, but I had some reflections over the weekend that I want to share with you in hopes that they're helpful to you. As I was sitting there taking it all in, what times that I was not super busy. First of all, let's talk about that, okay? It bears talking about. I am one that I'm a pretty good cook, if I do say so myself. I like homemade things, like making stuff from scratch. So I make homemade stuffing and all the casseroles and everything with fresh herbs and everything fresh, homemade rolls, all the things. And it's been a journey for me to at times feel frustrated at how much work there is to prepare all the food and to kind of be annoyed that everybody's off like playing or watching football or whatever while I'm like feeling like I'm slaving away in the kitchen. And over the last years, I've learned how to advocate for myself in a really strong way, more than I ever have before, and really spoke up about what I wanted, the kind of help I wanted. I want to cook this thing by myself. I'm totally fine to let somebody else cook this. Can you take this over? The other thing is that I have learned to advocate with the kids of saying, this is the expectation. I want you to be in charge of this. I want to not be in charge of this. Who wants to take this? And so I had more help this year than I ever have before. It was awesome. It was awesome. To the point where there were moments where I'm like, okay, you all can go out of the kitchen. I didn't actually say that, but like where there were so many people willing to help that it got a little crowded, right? Wow. I'm so grateful. My husband was right there helping the whole time. The kids constantly asking how they can help. What can I do? And I got to actually have time to play games with everybody and just to hang out with the grandkids, like long stretches of time holding my precious little grandson who's 2 months old and so dang cute. You know, I got to have that. And with that, I got time to just think and reflect and not be hustling and hurrying. I had moments like that, but it was not the whole weekend. And something that came to mind that I thought I want to share this with my listeners is how I was reflecting on my life not many years ago and how it looks 100% different than I ever thought. It looks 100% different than I dreamed it up when I was young. I live somewhere I never thought I would. I live in Montana in a beautiful home right on the Missouri River. I am married to a man that I never, I was married to somebody else. Like I didn't even know he existed. I didn't know his kids existed, right? And I adore him. And there's strong chemistry. There's all the things that I really wanted. And I'm going to get more into that in a little bit. We have this little girl who's 3, who we just adore. We just adore her. Like she brings us so much joy. Now, there's lots of choices that we make all the time. We're making choices. And some are, as I was thinking about this episode, I was kind of categorizing the types of choices. And I think that there are small choices that are low impact. They don't have a big impact. Like what I wear today is not probably going to change the trajectory of my life, right? What I eat today, those things do have impact. It might not affect me today, but over time, these things have impact. What I do with my money today does have impact over time. It might be a smaller impact today if I buy that Starbucks drink or not, but over time, small choices can have a small impact or they can have a pretty big impact, right? And then there's big choices with big impact. And I'm going to go back in time to when I was grappling with the decision of what to do in my marriage. There were many times where I knew that things were struggling, that things were difficult in my marriage, where I knew that there was a lot of deception, where I knew that it just seemed like I was talking to someone who didn't really want to be rational and reasonable and really, really, really heal. And I stayed for a long time, even knowing some of these things, because I was so hopeful that we could figure it out. And then I left. And that decision had massive impact. I do not want to minimize for a second the impact that decision had. This very day, I had a conversation with one of my daughters about the impact of everything that went down on her and the therapy that she's done and the help that she's gotten and her own healing in all of it, right? Big impact, big decision, big impact. Now, there's some choices that we make that there are piles of other choices behind. Let me give you an analogy, okay? If you imagine the game dominoes, there's the front domino and then there's all the dominoes lined up behind. There are some choices that we make that are like reaching back and taking one domino out, just pulling one domino out of that pile. And then there are some choices that we make that are at the very front that you knock that one down and all the other dominoes, you take them all out. I see me deciding to leave that marriage as a big domino in deciding that I was going to take a stand for my own values, for the quality of my marriage, for my dreams, for my desires. And I was also doing the same for my children. I was taking a stand for all of us. And that in turn knocked down many, many dominoes of indecision, of wondering how long, of being afraid of the repercussions. It kind of like, it triggered all of that, right? To really like, here we go. Instead of wondering, instead of worrying, instead of being so afraid of the impact, it like knocked that whole pile down. Like, here's the mess, let's go, right? And it also took away other decisions that would have needed to be made if I stayed. The constant negotiating with myself, it took it out. I didn't need to negotiate with myself anymore. All the questions of, am I being fair? And how is this going to affect the kids? And what am I going to do? And all of that. Like, it just knocked that all out to where now I have new things to think about, new questions to ask and answer, right? Suddenly those things were gone. I recently had a conversation with a client who had some things happen. Like, she was really hopeful that the marriage would work. And then she got some more information and realized it's not going to work and I need to go. And she told me that she feels very peaceful. She feels completely peaceful because she no longer has that pile of dominoes with all the questions. And what about this? What about this? And this and this and when? And all of that. Like, she made the decision from her own values, from her own courage, from her own wisdom. And it now has taken out those other dominoes of places that we go when we're worried, when we're questioning. Like, she said, I just don't have to go there. And one of the things I coached her on is, if things were to come up that would confuse you, what would they be? And how do you want to address that? How do you want to speak to those things? And that's what we did some coaching around. Now, fast forward, another big choice with big impact was marrying my current husband. And I would be lying if I said that it was really rosy and really like the way that I imagined that. It wasn't. It was challenging. We both were triggered by things. When we met each other, we both had really come through the ringer and had some things that we both needed to heal from. And of course, looking back in hindsight, I think that there's some things I would do differently and giving myself more time in different ways. I worried so much about things that I wouldn't worry about now. Keep in mind, this is before any coaching, okay? At this time, I had done some therapy that for me was not really all that helpful for me. It wasn't till a little bit later, and I'll get into that really things transformed. And anyway, but there was enough of connection and a knowing and a peace and a knowing it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard, and let's do this thing. And knocked down that domino, okay? We moved here. I picked up my kids and moved to Montana. 6 kids. My son was a senior in high school when we moved. And it was really challenging. Now, fast forward a year into the marriage. I've talked about this before. I'm just going to mention it briefly, but I was at a really big crossroads. I was in so much pain. I was really struggling and feeling like I was second to this woman who had died. And it was like eating me up inside. I was in this tiny community of 1,200 people, and it was just chewing me up that I felt like I would always kind of be like play second fiddle in this space. And even to him, I really felt that. And I remember getting to this crossroads of going, you either need to figure this out or you need to leave, because this is going to eat you alive. And it was at that time that I was introduced to coaching, to life coaching, and particularly the way that I now coach, or some of it. I've evolved quite a bit since I started and past like the initial things that I was taught. But those initial things really helped me tremendously to think about things in a way that was more supportive of me, more supportive of my growth, more supportive of me choosing me first, so that I could then stand up and like say, I am here. This is my rightful place. And I want to be with people who choose me and who put me first, right? And so that became like my new growth, was in really showing up as somebody who is worthy of being chosen. Like we all are. We're all worthy of that. But like me knowing it and showing up in that way, growing in my capacity to really hold myself to a high standard and expect the same. And I then became a coach and opened up my coaching practice, which has opened so many doors and led me to so many amazing people. Then one big thing is that a few years back, our marriage hit a crisis point where some of the things that had been tucked away or not really healed or really worked through kind of hit a point where it was rough. And I'm going to just be honest here, where I was looking at my options and I was hurt. There were some things that happened that were pretty hurtful to me. And again, it was one of those crossroads of, looking at a decision. And for me at this time, the decision that was clear as day, that came from wisdom, that came from strength, was stay. Andrea, this is where you learn how to build a marriage you you just are crazy about, that you really want to be in. And that has been the work that we've done. That experience for him of knowing that he hurt me was very humbling for him, to where it just showed him some areas that he really needed to let go of, to grow into, all of that. And he has done a lot of work with himself. And it's like, all right, now we really can get somewhere. And the amount of growth is just astounding to me, of where we are now together, both of us. We both had areas that we needed to grow. And I look at that choice to stay, and that I knew like, this is your growth, Andrea. This is the place. You're with a good man. This is a good place. It's fertile ground. He's a good man that has made some mistakes, and you're a good woman who has made some mistakes. And this is the place where you're going to learn how to really, really choose each other, really, really confront yourselves, really grow together to build something that you're both delighted to be in. And this weekend, I really felt so much of that, just so much admiration for my husband, so much love for him, watching him, how he is so great with our kids and with our grandkids and our in-law kids. Like, he's so great with all of them. And just the appreciation that I have for making that decision. I will also say that some of our decisions have had consequences that are lifelong consequences. For example, this little girl of ours who turned 3, my husband had a vasectomy, and we weren't going to have any kids together. That was a decision, but we also made the decision, not actively, like we didn't say, no, we're not going to go do that. We just didn't, for him to go back in and get checked to make sure that it took. And I remember them talking about it briefly and kind of just like, oh, okay, got to file that away. And neither of us remembered. Obviously, it's not my responsibility. It was his. But we both kind of just let it go. And then lo and behold, 1.5 years later, I'm pregnant. And it was such a shock, like such an absolute shock. And so there was a big consequence for that, for not following through. We have a child who's now 3. And my oldest biological kid is 26. I've been at this game for a very long time, as has my husband. And so now, back to these choices, one choice at a time. A choice that we made that was very easy to make. I'll tell you this, there was a lot of emotion while I was pregnant. It was very challenging. As soon as we met her, of course, just head over heels with our darling, beautiful girl who just yesterday called me her darling mama. She says, darling mama? Like, oh my gosh, like, how can I not just adore you? She's just the sweetest little girl. And we made the decision to love our choice, to love that we made that choice not to go get checked, right? And that here she is, and we're going to love the heck out of her. We're just going to love her. And she is absolutely adored by her family. We just all adore her. I only say this because sometimes the choices that we make that we might feel ashamed of or embarrassed about, or, I remember when I was pregnant feeling kind of embarrassed to go into the clinic at 43. Like, what am I doing here? Like, that ship has sailed. Like, it had been 11 years since I had been pregnant, and my previous ones were twins. And to be back in there, I felt kind of embarrassed and so much emotion. And what I have learned through this experience is that even these choices that we might go, yeah, that's a choice we made, that's something we let slip through the cracks, that does have massive impact. We still get to choose. We still get to choose. We still get to choose what we think about it, how we feel about it, how we're going to support ourselves in it, how we're going to support that choice. All of us, all the time, are faced with decisions that can be really challenging with big ripple effects. And I want you to know that this, whatever it is that you are sitting on, if you're sitting on a decision, the sooner you make a decision and then follow through on that decision, the sooner you will feel peace. It is in the waiting game, the indecisiveness, that is just torture. Okay, the sooner you get to make up your mind what you think about something, make a decision and make up your mind, this is what I am choosing to think about this thing. This is what I'm choosing to think about it. That's when peace comes. Okay, so many of us after infidelity feel like this choice was made that we didn't make. I felt some of that with this little girl of mine. Like, I didn't choose to not go get checked. That's his body, right? He didn't go in. And I had massive, massive consequences of carrying a baby and becoming a mother again at 44. And it has affected my career. It's affected everything in my life, right? And it's like, I can choose to be upset. I can choose to feel kind of ripped off, which at first I did. Like, I was so close to being an empty nester. And then you're telling me I'm going to start over, because my next kids, they're now 15 years old. They're sophomores. They're only a few years and they're out, right? Or I can choose to embrace this and choose to love and choose compassion and choose to just adore this little girl. Fortunately, she makes it very easy to do so. But you have the same ability to choose. The choices that we make aren't because one is like easier. Sometimes it is easier than the other. Sometimes that is the case. But most of the time, any choice we make is going to be challenging. There's going to be challenges. And we choose where we want to put our effort. Where do I want to give? If I know that I have to work here, like choosing to marry my husband, knowing that he was a widower with 5 children, picking up mine, moving to Montana, blending our huge family, I knew it was going to be very hard, and it was. And sometimes is on certain days. Yet there were so many moments this weekend looking at my family going, I cannot believe what we have pulled off. Look what we have pulled off. These kids care about each other. They love each other. They all love me and my husband. It's amazing. It's a miracle, right? And it's because we have chosen it. We chose to go all in on it and to become the people that can support it. The heart of it has not changed. We have. We have. And that is available to you too. So my challenge for you today is, if there's something that you're sitting on, I want you to look at what other dominoes it would knock down for you to make that choice. What space would it open up in your mind? What would you no longer have to think about? And what new job would you give your brain? What new task with that decision made? The life that you want is on the other side of your next choice. Go make it. Go make it. Knock those dominoes down and watch things unfold in a way that you can't possibly imagine right now. Thank you, my friends. So good to be with you today, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Heal From Infidelity podcast. If you would like to be kept in the know about upcoming free classes, new podcast episodes, and other ways of working with me, go subscribe to my weekly email. You can subscribe at andreagiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. Again, it's andreagiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. I will see you next time.